Hi there, this is Susan, the Chief Elf Officer with ElfWorksLane. You've asked, what do our bells sound like? And I'm going to start with the most popular bells that we sell, and they look very much like the Polar Express, the bell in the Polar Express movie. And we manufacture these bells in a traditional sand cast method. It's a very ancient method, and it dates back many hundreds of years. These are real sleigh bells. They're not made in a metal tin shop. They're actually sand cast with molten metal and poured. So that makes them heavy and substantial. So we have three sizes of bells. They come in either brass or in silver, chrome. And one is 35 millimeter, which we don't recommend for children because they're very small. And one is 45 millimeter, and one is 50 millimeter. And the 50 millimeter is the large bell, the medium, and then the small. I also have some of the competition's bells here that I'll ring for you. The first bell is a chrome 45 millimeter bell. Now that's one 40 millimeter bell, excuse me. And this is another 45 millimeter bell. And you can hear that even within two identical bells, you can hear that there's a difference. And that's because when you do sand casting, each bell becomes a different tone. So if there's a tone that you prefer one over another, you know, we can ring bells if you want something higher pitched or lower pitched, but they are musical bells. This is a 50 millimeter bell. And then here's some bells that are from the competition. This one you can see is a little flat and squat. The chroming isn't very good because it's actually started to come off and you can see the brass coming through. And our chroming process is fairly thick, so you should never see that happen. It's a little tin bell, and it has a very high-pitched sound. Then here's another one that's also a 50 millimeter bell. Not bad. It's not bad. It looks a lot like our bell, but again, it has kind of a more flat. That's because when they make this, they're not casting it. They're actually creating the bell and then folding the top pieces over the top of the bell. When you get a sand cast bell, you see something very different. The opening, it's actually it's cast this way, and so those seams are very, very tight. Now we have packaging for our bells, and depending on what kind of packaging you get, that's a little satin sack. This is a velvet sack, which is of course soft and plush. And this is a large deluxe velvet sack. And we tend to use those for the larger bells. The little bells tend to get a little bit simpler packaging. Here is a brass, not chrome plated, sand cast 35 millimeter bell. And of course, the smaller the bell in that little chamber, the higher pitch you get. Now, I wanted to also let you know that in boxes, packaging for bells, we have a little cute handmade box that we put together that says, "I believe" in the inside. That looks backwards, but the marvels of digital imagery. We also do a silver and a gold tone bell that's a box that says "I believe," and these have all a little bit of cotton in the inside that we put the bell in. These large custom boxes that we hand paint are for our antique bells, because we do, and we have for over a decade, restored antique bells. And these have a different sound altogether because they're worn, and they were of course once worn on a horse leather, and they have a different sound. But for people who are not looking for Polar Express but something that's really authentic that comes from Santa's sleigh, they look for these petal bells, they're called, because these little petals look like flower petals. This is a size 6 bell. and they're made to replicate the bells that were actually used on horse-drawn sleighs throughout New England in the 1800s. This is a number 4 antique bell, different sound altogether. But the children who get the pedal bells, sometimes, you know, it's different. Are you looking for Polar Express, or are you looking for something off of Santa's sleigh? This is, I believe, a number 9 or 10 bell. Very, very large. And I like the large bells, particularly for a child's gift. But they need to be supervised because they are very heavy and can do damage if you throw them. And I worry about the smaller bells in terms of choking hazards. So we don't want any mishaps at the holidays. So I tend to, we tend to not want to sell the small bells at all. There's one last bell. There's two last bells that I wanted to share, because this one a lot of people use for the Polar Express. It's called an acorn bell, and it's the bell that I love the most because this one has 2 tones. It has two sound chambers. So there's a sound chamber here and a sound chamber here. And when you ring it, it has this very, very sweet ring. And you can hear that there's actually 2 musical notes in there. And I like that one. That one comes in chrome, and it also comes in brass. And the brass one is equally sweet. Very shiny and pretty. Of course, chrome doesn't ever tarnish, but brass will over the years tarnish. But easily clean with a little brass polish. And then the last bell, which is very rare and they're hard to find, but we do find them from time to time. This is also an antique bell. It also has a year on it, 1800. It was a patented bell at the time. It's on the bottom here, but we put these on some leather strap and some ribbon. But that's an antique bell. And this one is a very sweet sound as well, but they never chromed these. These were only ever in brass. All our brass bells we polish so that they're shiny before they leave the workshop. So I hope this helped, and if there's something else that you need clarification with, or you need to hear a different size bell, or you need to hear it again, just let us know. Thank you.